Classical invention, as you've read about, is a way that we can use questions as a heuristic or a ladder that helps us analyze our own work. And one of the things that we really try to do is move kids and return them back to activities that we have been using to generate ideas for writing. But we also want them to understand that there are things that they begin to write about or know about or read about that they want to know more about. And I remember the blueprinting that I did for my childhood home. Was drawing the kitchen, and I remember some things happening around the refrigerator. One was that I used to throw my vitamins underneath uh, the 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 refrigerator because I thought they were disgusting and huge. They were some kind of gold Hilcoa vitamins. But another memory that I have from that is that my dad would come to visit from Denver, and he would bring little airline samples of the alcohol bottles that were used on the plane. So, what we want to show students is there are things that they begin to research more about or want to know more about. And so when we use these questions right here, for example, what are its precise physical characteristics, shape, dimensions, composition? What I realized with this is that I only kind of remembered what it was. I couldn't what it looked like. So I used those terms in an advanced Google search and was finally able to find what it was that it was called, and I found an actual ad for it. The other participants, as they began looking at their own work, Samantha Milburn really wants to examine the influence of video games. Uh, we see that Misty is examining how we become our parents. Uh, Mark Weaver really wants to learn more about health and how to remain free from illnesses or injury. We have topics of technology, and I think that there was somebody down in here that was willing to write about cacti. So as I went through and explored mine, I began to see more and more that there were differences, and I had not thought as I was reading to know what the difference was. I thought it was just liquor, but I realized that it was a liqueur, and there was something that was very different from that. So I found um, an article from Culinary Lore that seemed to have a lot of things. And you will see that as I began my writing, I started embedding a lot of these places in this research from um, the research that I did here. It shows up in my final draft. I looked at range and variation, and for me, this turned into recipes and ways that we can create the Cherie Suisse without having the recipe. Um, Norma begins to look at the spikes on the cacti in her piece. Uh, this one right here is the other objects we've observed early in our lives and what other respects with that. And so I really started looking at, was there something historically about the 70s that people allowed others to, young children to do that, and why they would have done that? It also helped me explore other points of view and what people might have been thinking about. So I found a couple of articles there about truths and myths about alcohol consumption. There are also some structural points here. So I started looking at the subcomponents of it and found some other definitions and recipes. I found an actual recipe for the Cherry Suisse, and so we could have added some of the other elements in there to make the cherry flavor. Um, I looked at the relationship with fetal alcohol syndrome and socioeconomic status. I looked at the manufacturer and found out the resources and research about that. Who needs it? And I didn't really know about all of this part here, and I started figuring out there are special sites that feature this kind of collectibles, I guess. Um, I did not use the one who uses it and for what, because I felt like I had already answered that question or it was obvious. Then I have to think about what purposes might that serve, or how can I evaluate the topic associated with this? So you can see that all of this research, whenever you start collecting it in here, you can start looking at what other people are finding out about the topics that they want to research. And it begins to be the beginning place where you can share your ideas with others and to really explore an issue in depth.